Okay, we got our new reverse gear came in, so we've got that. While I was waiting on that, I did a little inspection and I had a little problem. Instead of glossing over that and not including that in this video, I wanted to share it with you because you may run into the same type of issue. My kit, my master rebuild kit, came with 5 synchronizing rings. 2 of them are obviously larger, and those are the ones that go with the first and second. First gear, second gear, the synchronizers that are right here. And the style of synchronizer, specifically these little teeth, are exactly like what's on here. So I've got no problem first and second. That's a home run right there. The problem comes in with third and fourth and potentially fifth gear. Third gear has a synchronizer ring. The teeth look like it's the shape of a triangle. And so is the actual teeth that the synchronizing locking hub is going to grab onto. It's a little bit different shape. So this gear is a little different, and the synchronizer ring is a little different. And then fourth gear goes back to the same style as first and second, where it's just a very uniform look with basically the teeth on the synchronizer look kind of like the home plate of a baseball game. So anyway, when I was looking at the remaining rings, this one's going to be third, fourth, and fifth. I actually have rings. I got 2 that look like triangles and 1 that looks like home plate. So my first thought was these 2 would go here, and then this would match up with fifth gear. But fifth gear also looks like home plate, so I'm actually got 1 too many of these rings. What I've decided to do, I took the whole assembly to a guy that to give me some advice. And he agreed that we need to keep this synchronizer with this gear because they actually match together. So I'm going to use one of my triangle style synchronizers on third gear, my home plate brand new one on fourth gear, and then if you remember, my fifth gear assembly came with its own synchronizer ring, and it looks like home plate, and that's what we got. That's what the style that it needs. So I'm gonna use that with fifth gear, and those for that, and I'm going to have this particular one left over. Now the odd thing is, what's really odd is in the rebuild manual it says that these 2 synchronizer part numbers are the exact same, so these really should look the same. And the other odd thing is when I went to look, I said, okay, even though this gear is in perfectly good condition, I'm not going to replace it. If you go buy a replacement third gear, it looks like this. So again, I'm just going to go with my triangle synchronizer here to match up with that, and everything else is going to work out fine. So that's what we're going to do, and we're going to move beyond that. We're going to start by actually just pulling this apart, take the input shaft off this output shaft. Okay, so I got that pressed on far enough where that's going to fit right into that slot, so I'll be able to put this clamp back on. And here's the new bearing. I'm not going to, I'll leave this with it, but I'm going to oil that before I do final assembly. Stick it in there, and then here's the fourth Syncro that'll go on there. But let's get this back on here. going to set this to the side. Okay, for the output shaft, before we take this apart, we got to check 3 clearances. One is the first, second, and third gear clearances. The first gear clearance is actually taking between this gear and this bearing. Just to the right of this bearing is a thrust washer, and we're actually taking the clearance between the thrust washer and this gear. So the feeler gate's got to go in at an angle here. This measurement needs to be between 3 thousandths and 19.7 thousandths. And I use this little screwdriver just to the play we're trying to measure is that play right there. So I'm going to use this screwdriver just to make sure it's in the open position, and I can just get right there. It's a perfect on 6 thousandths. So we're definitely within spec there. The next we're going to here's the second and third gear. In between here is a thrust washer, and we're going to measure between the thrust washer and second and the thrust washer and third. This measurement needs to be between 3 thousandths and 11.8 thousandths. So I'm going to go in here. Okay, that 6 is just a little tight, so I'm actually going to call that 5 thousandths for second gear, and then that one's pretty loose. Let's go up to 10. Okay, 10, that's perfect. Alright, we were allowable up to 11.8, almost 12 thousandths, but 10 is perfect. So that's within spec. So now we're ready to start disassembling this. Okay, we need to start by taking off, again, this is the 5th gear. We're going to take a 5th gear in this bearing. With this large bearing puller, I can't get behind the bearing and pull them both at the same time. So I'm going to start by pulling off this 5th bearing. I've got to get this C-clip off first, though. Alright, now we're going to start our madness with putting things in a specific order. Let's set that right there. Let's press that off. Now this is the direction I took that off. This sleeve on top's a little taller than the sleeve on the bottom, and actually this sleeve is bigger in diameter than that sleeve. So I got to make sure I make note of that and make sure the new one, or this 5th gear, this will go back on. Make sure this goes on that same direction. Okay, again, that ring will go to the outside. There's our thrust washer. That's the washer we measured our clearance between earlier. Okay, the bearing. Thrust washer. There's a ball. Our pin. Okay, here's that bearing, and then a washer. I'm going to put it, start it off. Get that synchronizer off. Okay, first I'm going to take off this reverse gear off the Syncro hub. It's actually the reverse gear / Syncro hub. Taking off this pin, this clip, and it goes on this side. Just going to get these dogs out. Okay, it's got orientation, so this side goes out. So we'll flip it over and put it down. These are symmetrical. Okay, I'll take the Syncro hub off. Face down. Synchronizer that's going to be thrown away, but I'm going to leave it here, face down. Here's the second gear. Second gear bearing. Okay. That piece is machined onto this shaft, so the rest of this stuff's got to go that way. There's a snap ring here, and we'll start coming off this direction. Alright, on this last setup I want to make sure that my gear puller is not on that sleeve but only on the gear, because that piece stays. So I got it surrendered right there. We'll get this pressed off. Okay. Hub off, we'll put it face down like that. Synchronizer ring, third gear, and third gear bushing. This one. All right, time to reassemble. Alright, this is the gear oil that I'm going to be using inside the transmission, so I'm going to put a little bit of this in a cup and use it to pre-lube all these bearings. Alright, so here's our Syncro hub, and this is going to be the gear that's the triangle. Here's our Syncro gear for that. Here's the one I'm going to discard, put it to the side. Okay, we got to rebuild this synchronization hub, and early on when I took this off, I noticed it looked symmetrical on the outside, but on the inside, this again is the 3rd, 4th Syncro hub, right? This side has that triangular shape, and this side has the symmetrical point. So I got this does have orientation. It needs to go this direction with this triangular shape toward 3rd gear, since we're using the triangle shape on this side. So we got to rebuild this hub. This slides together like this. Set these little dogs in here. Okay, that's that side. Now, the other side, we're going to put the gaps on this side for this ring. I'm going to put the other ring in, make sure it goes in this direction. Actually, it'll go in like this. So I'm going to take this. The gap on the other side is between these two. I'll put the gap over here. Okay. Now check it one more time. I see triangle shape there, symmetrical shape there. So this is the orientation. And this gets pressed onto here. These are just even splines here, but this has got a smooth gap every 3rd place, but doesn't look like that is keyed anyway. So this is going to go on like that and get pressed on. Alright, as we're going back together, I've pressed this down first of all until I knew this clip would fit in there. And that clip will fit right in there, and as well as checking that clearance. It needs to be between 3 and 11.8 inches, and it's right at 10. And that's actually where, no wait, 10? Yeah, 10. So we are perfect. So now we're ready to put this clip back on. Alright, so this side's done. Now we got to go back over and work on this side. We start by replacing that bearing. Let's do a dry fit. Yep. So again, we got a hub we want to rebuild. This went on this direction. Okay, time to put the reverse gear, first and second synchronizers, this hub back together. Here's one of our larger synchronizing rings that goes on first. Helps if you put it on the right direction. Okay, this is the new reverse gear, and it goes in this orientation. I'm gonna lay it down. This has always been in the correct orientation. And there's some teeth missing right here, every third way, and so that centers this piece right there. So we're going to do that. Dropping these dogs, the bumps go out. There we got our springs. Okay, carefully flip this over. Now our hole is here, and I can see the old one, so I'm going to put the hole here for this spring. Alright, there's orientation. Gear, synchronizer. And this hub is got to be pressed on. So let me go press this on, and then we'll add the other new ring and spacers and stuff. Alright, so we've pressed this assembly on, and here's our second gear, and the between that and that thrust plate that's on the shaft needs to be between 3 and 10,000, and I got 4 thousandths, and it fits just perfect. If I open this up just a little bit, that is just perfect, 4 thousandths. So I'm going to mark that on my paper as 4 thousandths. The original was 5. And just to check this, yep, that clip's going on next. Snap right on. Okay, next we're going to put this is a plastic spacer. Goes on there, and that's going to just make sure this bearing sits in the right position. Got a bearing. And we got first gear. Oop, before first gear, let's put our synchronizer ring. First gear. We've got to remember this pin. This has got a key right there for that pin. Next goes the bearing, the new bearing. Remember, we want that little gap on the outside. So we'll go like this. Let's go ahead and press. Nope. I'm going to press the whole thing together. Now, I actually just forgot which side that goes on, so let me go review my video, make sure I get this right, or let me actually look at the documentation and see if that shows. Okay, so I went over to the press and was going to press this together, and you got to press it upside down. And when I did that, the weight of this first gear dropped and sat on top of this bearing. When it did that, it pushed my thrust washer down off that pin, and I'm afraid that it won't line back up. So I've got it all set back where I want it. I'm going to zip tie this first gear to another gear that's already in place. Just make sure it doesn't drop, take the tension off of that. The Vaseline I put on this thrust washer should keep it glued to that, so I can turn it upside down and just press this back down here. So let's do a little zip tying. Okay, it may look ugly, but at least that's going to keep this gear down as I flip this upside down. My thrust washer should stay in place because of the Vaseline, and we should be able to press it. Let's go press this together. Okay, so I got this pressed on, and I used a feeler gauge just to get it where it was really good and close. I didn't want it to move this at all if I could help it. And so I got that done, and then I used a punch and a hammer, and I could see a gap in there. I snugged it up, and I kept tapping until this ring fits perfectly in here. So this now will fit in its slot where it's supposed to be, and I still have my 8/1000ths. It's a perfect fit right there. So I still have 8/1000ths. This is supposed to be between 3/1000ths and 19/1000ths. So we are in perfect specs. We'll be able to drive this ring back on and be in really good shape. Okay, let's get this output shaft married with the input shaft that we've already done a lot of work on. Key is I'm going to clean this surface real good. And they recommend on these big roller bearings put Vaseline. So I'm going to give them a coat. Might help with break-in or something. Let's take that. Stick that in here. Remember your synchronizer. This is 4th gear. Remember the 4th gear's got the little house-looking one. Alright, so this piece is done. We're going to set this off to the side. Just set it to the back of the bench. And I think what I'll do is well, the next piece we got to do, we got to finish up the cluster gear needs its new bearing. So let's work on that. Okay, so for this bearing, it's held on by a little C-clip. We're going to be able to pull that off, and I've matched up the same bearing that came with the kit. It's actually made by the same company. It's a Nachi, and from Japan, 25RTS95N. This is C3. It's got a little bit different nomenclature, but one of the key differences, or interesting things about this is not a self-contained bearing. This is, you could actually pull this. It's got a sleeve here that's got a shelf on it, and if you pull that out, all these bearings would fall out. So the key is, remember, this groove's got to go to the outside, and so the sleeve goes into this side and that. I'm going to make sure as I pull this one off that it's orientated the same way, but this is the way it came out of the package, so this is the way I'm definitely going to install this one. So I'm going to set this off to the side. I'm going to set it down like that so it doesn't come apart. I'm going to install that one just like that. Let's get this C-clip off. Okay, up until now I've been able to successfully use this large bearing puller, but this section right here is too thick to get between this bearing and this gear, so I've had to go out and purchase another kit from Harbor Freight, and I believe this has got a little bit of a tooth on it. I'm going to see what I can do if this might pull this apart. Let's see what happens. Alright, I think I got lucky, to be honest with you. So that wasn't the best situation. A couple reasons, let me show you. Let's see. Alright, a couple reasons is you should never be pulling on this outer part of the bearing, either pushing on or pushing off, but you know, this one we're getting rid of, so I'm worried about destroying it. This is set up just like the other one, this collar and the sleeve that slides in the center, and then the washer, and the washer's still on here, so I'll pull that off, and then we'll get the, let's get that off. Make sure you don't forget to get this off. Alright. Clean that up. Here's our new bearing member. This goes the outside. Here's the washer. And the other piece, I'm going to slide that on. Actually, I'm going to dip these down that little oil bath as well. Okay, so we got our washer first, and then this, and this is going to be pressed on. Okay, I was able to press that on using a socket to press just on this center piece, get it seated where it needed to be until this clamp will fit in there. Alright, so now we got both shafts reassembled, all new parts, new synchronizers, new bearing on the all the gears, and new shaft bearings, and all those parts now done. We're ready to reassemble the transmission. We'll do that next time.
Jack it up.